Greetings, everybody. When you're young and in love, everything seems so beautiful until you start to live with the person that you love and reality hits the fan. And as young people, we often don't really think ahead. And so we end up entering into relationships with people that we're not compatible with. Okay? But the thing is, even if we're not compatible, there is always lessons to learn. And some of us learn the hard way. Okay? Because no one is teaching this. No one is teaching us about how to pick our partner, what to look for. We often hear about red flags, but anybody can mask their truth. Sometimes it takes a long time. And even when you live with somebody for a long time, you find out that you still don't know them, right? Anyway, in this video, I'm going to talk about my own experience as a young bride and how excited I was to become a wife. People, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter how bad someone is, there's always good in them. I've spoken of bad experiences with past relationship, and I'm going to tell you, even in that situation, I remember a lot of kindness. I remember a lot of, I hold gratitude for certain experiences that I gained because of that individual. Okay, so it's always a mixed bag for me. Now, I was sharing with someone the other day that I didn't know how to cook. When I came to Canada, all I knew how to do was boil water. But you couldn't tell me nothing. I remember I used to cook dinner. I used to work at a wallpaper clearance house, and I would go in the morning. First of all, I would go to school in the morning from 9 until 1 p.m. And then my workplace was across the street. I would go from 1 p.m. until 9 p.m. at night. And that was 5 days per week. And on Saturdays, I would go to church. So I really just had one day for myself. But anyway, as a wife, as a young wife, living with my husband, I would come home at night, 9 o'clock at night. At that time, my then partner worked at night, so he would be on the night shift, and I would come home and I would prepare a meal. I would make green banana. Let me tell you, by the time I was done peeling it, it was all chopped up and just a little bit of it is left, and it was never whole. And I would drop it in a pot, and when I would make the dumpling, they would be so sticky. When I'm dropping them in the pot, they're so sticky. And I would boil saltfish, man. I want to learn how to make, saltfish, and I want to see my man just sit and eat dinner. And so I would cook the food, and when he gets home that late time in the morning, he would be making dinner. I would sit at the table and I would give him, serve him his meal at 2 o'clock in the morning, people. Anyway, every time I give him his dinner, he would ask me to go get water, go get something that took me away from the table. And when I come back, he would be finished. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that was so good. And he'd say, oh, that's so nice. And then as the months, the days turned into months. I remember one day I decided I was going to cook something different. I was going to make liver. So I cut up my liver and I seasoned it up from the night before, and I decided I'm going to make it so fancy. So I catch a pot of water and put it to boil, and then I drop the seasoning and the liver in that pot, and it was boiling. And then I got the brilliant idea. I broke up the the spaghetti. I broke it up and dropped it in and boiled it, and until it came all the way down. And then when my partner comes home, I was so excited I couldn't wait to give him his dinner. And he opened the pot and looked in, and he's like, oh, nice. Maybe next time you might want to put some oil in the pot and let it fry, and then you're going to add the water afterwards. Well, people, when he said that, I was livid. I was so upset. I thought, oh my gosh, this guy is so ungrateful. And anyway, I ranted and raged and I stormed out, and he went to cook the liver. And when he was done and wanted to share mine, I said, I don't want any. I do not want any. I tried so hard and I was trying to impress you, and you didn't even appreciate it. And anyway, he said, well, when you're ready, you can. I went to look in the pot. When I looked at it, I thought to myself, this is really how it's supposed to look. My first humbling moment that I didn't know what I was doing and that I had it all wrong. Never mind the crazy hair day people. So fast forward, and as a single parent raising my Canadian children, they want pasta. That was our favorite go-to. They want baked chicken, mashed potatoes, a little rice here and there. And so I learned to cook Jamaican food after marrying another Jamaican. Now, that's not even the thing I want to talk about. So I'm explaining how I lived with me and my girls, just eating mashed potato and things that were easy to make. I really did cook every single day for my children, except when we go out for dinner to a restaurant or something like that. And then I found myself living a very soft life. People, when it comes to interior design, it is my go-to. My children can tell you that they would come from school, and when they look and I'm rearranging my place, they would say, oh no, not again, because I couldn't afford to get new things all the time, and I would get bored with the old things, and so I would turn the room around. I would want my place to look like I live in a new home. And my bathroom would look like something out of a magazine. And my living room and bedroom, don't mention my bedroom, people. Silk and satin were the only sheet sets I would use on my bed. The soft life, I was creating something. I had the desire to be around beauty and to be around, what would be considered wealth. I love the fine things in life. I like the beautiful things. I would spend more time decorating my home than I would even spend time on my body. When I go out to shop for myself, maybe once per year. I'm saying all of this to say, then I found myself being married to another Jamaican. And things like dumpling was not something that I made, except when I was making soup and I would put those spinners in it. And suddenly I'm with a Jamaican man who's lived in Jamaica until he was 30 years old. And not 30, 35 years old. And he wants yam. I didn't even know how to peel yam, people. And when I did, it would hitch me so much. He would teach me how to peel the yam, because he would say, don't let it get wet, because if it gets wet, it'll make you itch. Or when I cut it, he would say, no, don't chop them so big, you have to do it really thin. And then I was making dumplings. Now I learned how to make dumpling. I had a friend that she would always say, I know when I come to you, you're going to be making me dumpling. That's the only person that could make me. Cara was the only person who could make me make dumplings for her, and I literally would just make just enough to give the kids one and give her two. And I didn't really mess with dumplings at that time. And before you know it, I was married, and I was buying a 10 kilogram or kilogram of flour, and I would be needing 40 pounds of flour for the week. And there were times when I got so vexed. I was like, what the hell? I hated doing it. To this day, I hate making dumplings. It's just messy, it's sticky. I can't stand the feeling of the flour on my hand. You know how that is. Life changed. And suddenly, I became more of a housewife than I spent time in doing the glamour thing. Because now this new relationship is requiring more of me. And, I want to give more of me to this new relationship. But there are times when you became resentful. Now, I say all of this to say, and I'm going to list, I think, at least 10 things that are signs that Boom missed, that would have sent the message that this situation that you've carved out for yourself with your married, with your young bride, was not something that she had in mind It was not the plan she had for her future. And when I say that, I'm not saying that in judgment of her, because I'm sharing how I started my first relationship, didn't know nothing about cooking. I wanted to impress my man, and getting to the point where I am doing my own thing and living some soft life, and you know, love the glamour. I think Aquarius people love beautiful things, and if they can't have it, they will find dupes or find ways to enjoy something similar until they can afford it. And so we've talked so much about Alicia and her husband Boo, and you're tired of it now, but I'm just trying to look at it this way before we move on. Now, everyone talks about the age difference, and I'm only going to mention it in my number one thing of things that were missed, only because it makes a difference. When we say age is a number, age is not just a number. Your mindset, the people or the kids that are born in this time, they're born to a whole new experience, things that my age group still baffled to understand. When it comes to technology, I always have to rely on my 17-year-old daughter. When it comes to certain things, I have to say, what does that mean? Certain jargon, certain explanation. It can make, if you're not a real cool person, or you're not around young people, I find if you're a teacher or individuals who work with kids, you're always going to be hip. You're always going to be trendy when it comes to understanding the language. And that can be a big barrier. Communication language is going to be a big barrier in terms of the age gap between Boo and his ex-wife. Number two, when you're worldly, and worldly doesn't mean bad. When we were growing up, worldly mean that worldly and mean that you were not a Christian. But when we're talking about worldly in the affairs, when it comes to vanity, like beauty standards, he would know nothing about beauty standards. He would know nothing about the social or internet, for example. He didn't know. And therefore, when he entered into that space, he would feel like an alien. But she was there to teach him, and she was a very good teacher. And I'm going to say this before I get away, that Boo and Alicia Kim, they were the best duo prankster. There was also another Jamaican, and I'm not going to say their name in this one, but they were very good at it. But I'm telling you, single-handedly, when Boo and Alicia Kim got together, they're the ones that were not offensive. They were the best prankers. They vibrated on each other's energy like nothing. That part of it is very sad. And that part of it made me say, you know what? When the wounds get healed and the resentment wears off, I know they're going to reconnect and they're going to have that conversation. Not reconnect to get together as a couple, but I just don't feel that you can have that kind of chemistry and then it just goes away. Life is just too fragile, and in time, after they've both shared their story and continue on their healing journey, that they will connect, because trust me, they were forced to reckon with. Number three, Alicia Kim lives her life and tells her story in the open for everyone to see, and you can clearly see that Boo is more of a private person, so he would have missed this sign to say, you know, how is this gonna work, because she's out there. And that's why there is, I don't know if it's true, but there is these stories that he wanted her to stop doing YouTube, and it was something that she just couldn't give up, and it wasn't something that he would have the right to ask her to give up because he found her doing it. Number four, Alicia's ambition. Alicia would never be a poor man's wife. And you can clearly see when she travels, when she goes to these restaurants, when she's doing these things by herself, when she's doing her interior design, top tier living. If you are a man, whomever you are, wherever you are right now, if you think you can take Alicia and give her any, you know, easy life, or simple life, I should say, where, you know, she just sit back and lay back, it's never good enough for her. It will never be good enough. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. Do not misunderstand me. But what I'm saying is she has high taste. And fine living is her style. Number five, Yeah, so my example of the dumpling. Now, Boo mentioned something about the laundry, and maybe I can tie it with this. She was never going to be that person to be doing your laundry. Alicia is the type of person who would need a maid, and if they had children, she would want a nanny because she is that girl. Some people are just like that. Some people, they manifest a type of life for themselves, and they will have it whether you like it or not. So the kneading of the dumpling and the peeling of the banana, and being that wife, she was way too young for it. And in order to get someone her age to be doing those things, you'd have to go way into some parts of Africa, into some village, and take that person out and bring them to America. And I guarantee you, if she start hanging out with other people, she's not going to want to do that anymore. So I mentioned earlier about the laundry. These are not the things that were in our plans. She's a woman who, as I said before, would need help for this. And that's not a problem. There are people, there are women who are married and they don't have to do domestic chores. They are with men that can afford to pay people to do it for them. And I think Alicia would have fared well if her husband had the financial ability or stability to be able to do that. I think the relationship would have lasted. Party girl. Kim is a party girl. Kim likes a good time. She likes to go out. Her husband just could not keep up with her. And for some reason, he probably felt in the beginning, when when an older man gets with a younger woman, or vice versa, you draw that energy. It's so exciting, but it can only last for so long because the age difference after a while is going to catch up with you. Number 8, intimacy. From early on, even with some of the pranks, we could see that there was an issue when she said, I need a man to rock my world. Now, this is embarrassing to be out here on the World Wide Web for a man, but it's the truth. She was telling her truth. And that's something that he missed. I don't think he thought about that. He gave it much thought. And number 9, Alicia is a very charming person, and so is her husband, Bo. I don't think they could have gotten together if they didn't have chemistry in that department. She is fearless, and so is he. So don't sure he misses her. There are things about her that he loved. I'm sure she made him feel young again. I'm sure she introduced him to things that, wow, he never experienced before. And likewise, he both introduced her to the life that she always wanted. Stop making it seem like the whole time they're together that he never gave her that thing. He gave her fantasy. And I don't know what the story is with their, living situation and their finances or whatever. It's just something that once, and this is what I would warn people: when you're getting involved with people in Jamaica, you're better off making them think you're worse off than you're better. Even if you're wealthy, pretend like you're poverty stricken, because when they come and find out you're not the person that they see in front of you, they're going to be turned off. There's going to be conflict. They're going to be angry. They're going to feel that they got deceived. Mr. Boo said, even if I was living under a bridge, she would come live with me there. Well, maybe that's true. All right, in their case, I don't know everything about that. Number 10, um, in my opinion, Elisa Kim lacks emotional intelligence and is not very empathetic. And the reason why I say that, and I think Boo might have missed that, is some of the pranks or some of the things that were put out here. A person who's intelligent, emotional, will say to themselves, you know what, as angry as I am, I'm not going to put this out here because it's going to present a side of me that seems cold or calculating. All right? So, I'm going to pause again. I don't know. It's like someone doesn't want me to do this video. The general idea here is that two persons got together and their differences far outweighed their similarity. And when people have different intention for a relationship, it makes it even more difficult to, navigate their way in that union. Okay? The purpose of this video is not to trash Alicia Kim and exonerate her husband. It's to show that these are two human beings who had different goals or different ideas for their relationship. And when you're not on the same page, I trust and believe that it will not work out. They have gone their separate ways and they tell their story, and I believe that they should tell their story on their own time. And this is why I am giving Mr. Bull the opportunity to speak. Wrapping up this series and wish them both all the best in the world. When we enter into relationships, we have no guarantee if it is going to work. It is very nice if you can go your separate ways in peace, but sometimes that is not possible. Nevertheless, if any of you have been triggered by the stories you're seeing from both parties, please understand that maybe you might use this opportunity to heal as well. Stay blessed, everyone.